Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning all. Be honorable to Miss Ati as my first supervisor and Mr. Madi as my second supervisor and all lecturer as my examiner judge. The first, I want introducing myself. My name is Nur Rohmatika from Accounting Education, and here I will present my thesis proposal entitled The Effect of Free Cash Flow and Leverage on the Stock Price with Dividend Policy as Intervening Variable, a case study of index Compass 100 non-banking companies listed on IDX in 2018 until 2019. Chapter 1 Preliminary. Dividend increased by 2.54% from 2017 to 2018 and decreased in 2019 and 2020. It because trade war, it affect investment condition in Indonesia and pandemic COVID-19, and dividend distributed on the basis profit from previous financial years. And the average stock price of Compass 100 index fluctuates. When 2018, it decreased 78.76 and increased in 2019 90.62, and in 2020 it decreased again at the point 66.13. I'm sorry. And the background why I choose Compass 100 index, it's because it has a good quality and large cap, and as an update previous research and based on the theory. And I make a research question. The first, how does the free cash flow affect on dividend policy? And the second, how does leverage affect on dividend policy? How does free cash flow affect directly on the stock price? How does leverage affect directly on the stock price? And the fifth, how does dividend policy affect on the stock price? And the sixth, how does free cash flow affect indirectly on the stock price through dividend policy? And last, how does leverage affect indirectly on the stock price through dividend policy? And in this study, I use intervening variable because theoretically there is a relationship between the dependent variable and independent variable. Dividend policy was chosen as intervening variable because the free cash flow and the leverage variable has an effect on the stock price and dividend policy. And dividend policy is considered capable to be intermediary of the influence of the free cash flow and the leverage on the stock price. The first, for theoretical review, there is agency cost theory. Agency cost theory is about investor versus managers. Agency cost theory assumes that there is a retention of income that drives the managerial behavior of companies as a business management agents that do not maximize the interest of shareholders as owner of the funds. Starting from the conflict between shareholder and the management, when the company management is concerned with the performance to generate profit, while loyalty to shareholder is forgotten. As a reflection in a good free cash flow, shareholder will question, where's the dividend payments? And the signaling is about prospect and loyalty. Signal theory describes a company activity or action aimed at investor in order to provide clues that company has a prospect. The company management is considered to have more precise information about the company than outsider. So company can use dividend or performance information to assure the gap of internal information to the investor. For example, the condition of the company when experience profit or losses will be a positive or negative signal for the shareholders. And the last is bird in hand. Bird in hand is about dividend is more wanted than capital gain. Bird in hand theory explains investor want more dividend distributed as company appreciation for the capital that has been placed by investor and is not as dangerous as capital gains. The yield of income obtained dividends will reduce future risk because it's a certainty of income, or we can say it's passive income. And then the first variable is a free cash flow. Accordingly, free cash flow is available cash that will be used by the company for company operation needs such as capital expenditure, debt payments to the investor, emergency funds, reducing equity financing, and others. Free cash flow, accounting by cash flow from operating, means capital expenditure divided total cash multiply 100%. And the leverage represents ability to pay off funds through the bonds, long-term, short-term. According to Coach Judy, debt to equity ratio is a financial ratio that presents that the proportion of the company owned capital and debt in funding company's asset. So we can counting there is a total debt divided total equity multiply 100%. And dividend policy, according to Rahmat and Ardianto, dividend policy is defined as a discussion taken by company on the amount of income to be distributed to a shareholder and the proportion to be allocated to returning earnings measured by dividend payout ratio, or we can call DPR. DPR is counted by total dividends divided total earnings multiplied 100%. And the stock price. Stock price is the price given for each stock that has been issued by an initial public offering company, and the stock value from movement resulting from the capital market activities. It's a buying and selling by investor. The stock price also reflects the future earning of investor, measured by closing price on the stock exchange or index. Stock price is using closing price. And these are the framework. The first variable is free cash flow and the leverage, dividend policy, and the stock price. And this hypothesis, hypothesis 1, hypothesis 2, and hypothesis 3, hypothesis 4, and hypothesis 5. The first hypothesis is free cash flow effect on dividend policy. Second hypothesis, leverage effect on dividend policy. And the third hypothesis is free cash flow affecting directly on the stock price. The fourth is leverage effect directly on the stock price. Fifth, dividend policy effect on the stock price. And sixth is free cash flow effect indirectly on the stock price through dividend policy. Seventh, leverage effect indirectly on the stock price through dividend policy. And chapter 3, it's a research methodology. The first, analysis population and sampling. I use a quantitative method using secondary data. Compass status index is on ADX in total 100 companies. Using profit sampling, non-banking companies not delisting distribute dividend for financial years 2018 until 2019, and selective sampling, I got 45 companies. And the first analysis techniques is descriptive statistical analysis. It's descriptive statistical analysis explaining the description of a data. The purpose of descriptive statistical analysis to interpret and provide a description of the variable in research by collecting, summarizing, and presenting data or obtain easy to understand information. And the path analysis, it's using for variable relationship analysis carried out by testing the comparison of the alignment of correlation matrix with two or more causal relationship models that it can be known it's arrived at last dependent variable through a direct path or through an intervening variable. The direct effect in this research is a free cash flow, leverage, and dividend policy on the stock price. And direct effect is free cash flow and leverage on dividend policy, and indirect effect of free cash flow, leverage on the stock price through dividend policy. And the Sobel test. The Sobel test is aimed to show the magnitude of the influence of the indirect variable with intervening carried out the procedure developed by Sobel to test the strength of the indirect influence of the independent variable through intervening variable. And here a path diagram model. The orange lines is indirect effect, free cash flow through dividend policy on the stock price, leverage through dividend policy on the stock price, and the next techniques is test requirement analysis. Normality test. Normality test is aimed to show whether the distribution of data follow or is close to normal by looking at data distribution point on the diagonal axis on the graph. And linearity test. It's aimed to show whether the variables in the study have a linear relationship or not. And hypothesis testing. The first coefficient of correlation is focused on determining whether there is a relationship between two or more independent variables on the dependent variable at the same time, and using person-produced moment formula. And coefficient of determination test shows that based on the available data whether the independent variable has a partially significant effect on the dependent variable. And then t-test is determine the feasibility of the model between all independent variables on the dependent variable. I'm sorry, I was explaining v-test, and now t-test it shows the based on the available data whether the independent variable has a particularly significant effect on the variable on the dependent variables. And next is classic assumption test. Autocorrelation tests show whether there is a correlation between the t-period confounding error and the t-1 period confounding error in the research regression models. And using Durbin-Watson tests. And the next heteroscedasticity test show whether in the regression model there is an inequality of variance from one residual to other variables. And the last multicollinearity test tests whether there is a correlation between the independent variable and the regression models. So that's all. And thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.